Hi, hello, welcome folks, welcome to Lit Valentine. It's my pleasure to welcome you all once again. So today we are going to focus on an interesting topic, friends. So before going that, let's see today's idioms of the day. The straw that broke the camel's back. Interesting, right? So what is the meaning of the straw that broke the camel's back? It means you have reached the limit of your patience. For example, if somebody is at most in the patience level when or during their complicated situations, and if you want to point out that you have reached the limit of your patience, instead of using the familiar word or the words related to that meaning, you can use the idiom the straw that broke the camel's back. So this idiom has the meaning you have reached the limit of your patience. So let's see the other word. As usual, as a chocolate teapot. As usual, as a chocolate teapot. Meaning referring to a useless item or pointless or action. For example, if you want to point out that it is an useless item or pointless or action, or the words or synonyms related to this meaning, you can use the idiom as usual as a chocolate teapot. Interesting, right? Use these idioms in your regular day life, my friends, so that it can make you to be a person of unique among the common speakers. So with this, let's move on to the next slide. Renaissance. Today, the interesting topic for the literature students is Renaissance. So here, all the key points. Here I am going to illustrate all the key points which I am mentioning here. So what is actually Renaissance? It's the period of the beginning of the modern English literature. So if you have the topic called Renaissance, immediately you have to think about that. It is the period of the beginning of the modern English literature, that is Renaissance. Renaissance is now called as the early modern period. And this is the time when the Middle Ages changed into humanistic period, and there were a new interest in the human being, a new belief in the centrality and dignity of man. Everything started emerged during this Renaissance period. A new belief in the centrality and dignity of man started emerging during this period, and this was also the time when people began to question oppression and marginalization. So this resulted in the reformation of the Catholic Church. The Renaissance is actually a French word, my dear friends. Keep that in mind that Renaissance is a French word which means rebirth. Rebirth of the human spirit. So once again I will repeat it. French word. Renaissance is the French word which means rebirth. Okay. So with that, let's move on to the next slide. If you take Renaissance, it started in the 14th century and went on to its peak in the 16th century. So the high point of Renaissance is the fall of Constantinople. Constantinople was the capital of Byzantine Empire. So what is Byzantine Empire? Let me tell you that. The Roman Empire is divided into two parts, that is Eastern Roman Empire and Western Roman Empire. The Western Roman Empire fell in the beginning of the 5th century, and the Eastern Roman Empire is the Byzantine Empire with its capital at Constantinople. In 1453, the Ottoman Turks from the Middle East, the Persians, they came and attacked Constantinople. So at the time in the Middle Ages, the Persians were the very powerful people. The Europeans and the Arabs were fighting continuously during that time. That means the Christians and Muslims have started fighting. This had started in the 11th century with the Crusades. So in the 15th century, that is in 1453, Constantinople, the center of the European culture and activity, fell to the Ottoman Turks, and the Ottomans obviously wanted to destroy the culture of the Constantinople. They are the enemies, So they attacked the monasteries and libraries. All the learning of the ancient ages were preserved in these monasteries in the form of the manuscripts. There were scribes, or also called as copies, were written down. Many copies of manuscripts and books all were preserved in the libraries and monasteries of Constantinople, and everything is going to be destroyed during this war. So a lot of people from Europe came and tried to protect the manuscripts. So who is the important person who tried to protect the manuscripts is Francisco Petrarch. We all know it's right. Francisco Petrarch was the important man who was played a major role in protecting the manuscripts during the war time. And he is very famous. He is the author of Canzoniere. Here I have mentioned about it. Francisco Petrarch is the author of Canzoniere. Okay. So with this, let's move on to the next slide. Yeah, here I have taught you about Francisco Petrarch. He is the author of Canzoniere and he is also the practitioner of sonnets. He is the father of humanism because he preserved these manuscripts and he led to a new age dawning across Europe. So the age of the Renaissance involved political upheavals, upheavals in the realm of knowledge or epistemological upheavals, religious upheavals, everything were happened, and this religious upheavals is in the nature of reformation. So all this was felt in every walk of life during those time, and everything changed: philosophy, art, literature, and there was a lot of experimentation. Literatures in the vernacular began across in Europe, in every European country. A period of great beginnings in every realm of human activity is called as the Renaissance period. So the Renaissance, if you take the Renaissance, it started from the fountainhead of European literature, that is Dante. Dante, we all know about him. He is the author of Divine Comedy, De Monarchia, La Vita Nova. So many books of Dante are very important, and it was followed by Petrarch, who is the author of Canzoniere or Books of Canzoni. But this Books of Canzoni is actually a poem. Okay. So Petrarch is known for his work Canzoniere or Books of Canzoni. It's actually a poem. Canzoni is a meter. So if you take Dante, Dante started writing sonnets for the first time ever, and Petrarch was the one who perfected it, because it was Petrarch who was the practitioner of sonnets, and he was the person who perfected it for the Dante, because Dante started writing sonnets for the first time ever. And Petrarch was also the author of an epic poem called Africa. As I said you before, Petrarch was the father of humanism and he was the practitioner of sonnets, and he was the author of an epic poem called Africa, and it was Dante who was the person who started writing sonnets for the first time ever, and Petrarch was the person who helped him, and he was the one who perfected the sonnets of Dante. So keep that in mind, folks, and with this let's move on to the next slide. Other important writer, that is Boccaccio. Boccaccio, if you take Boccaccio, Boccaccio was the first prose writer of any European language. Okay, he was the first prose writer of any European language, and Decameron, Philostrato, Philoclode, Tessida, all these works influenced Chaucer, and it was Boccaccio who called Divine Comedy. Before that, Dante called it Commedia. So keep that in mind, friends. It was Boccaccio who called Divine Comedy. Before that, Dante called it Commedia. Divine Commedia, that is Boccaccio's style. Boccaccio's style of writing is called as Divine Commedia, and these people influenced English writers, and in England, the nest of singing birds. So many brilliant writers emerged at England in these times. Okay, so keep that in mind. And don't get panic, my dear friends. Renaissance will be continued in the upcoming videos. So till that, keep watching Lit Valentine. And with this, let's move on to the next slide. Here I want to tell you that to get interesting updates, just subscribe Lit Valentine. And in each video on shorts of Lit Valentine, you will have the related links, folks. You can watch that by clicking the related links in the description. With this, thank you, take care, and bye-bye.